Good morning. Welcome to Time in His Word. A few weeks back, I was down in southern Mississippi on a back road trying to get to this lumber mill to load. And I went and had to go around one of them crazy roundabouts that all of a sudden everybody in the Brotherhood's got to put in their town. And I didn't go quite far enough around to get back on the highway I needed. So I got on the wrong highway. I ended up driving almost 10 miles out of my way to find a place to turn around. And so then it was 10 miles back to that roundabout. So 20 miles out of route. And then I got on the road I needed and got to the shipper like I needed on time and stuff. But what I'm going to get at is that a lot of times in life, we get to a crossing, we get to a point in life when we've got to make a decision. And instead of relying on God, we rely on ourselves thinking we know better. And we end up going down the wrong road for quite a ways until we realize that we're going the wrong way, and we get turned around. In Matthew the 7th chapter, verse 13, enter through the narrow gate. For the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction, and there are many who enter through it. We've all heard this passage I'm going to use this morning in numerous ways, and that on, and in different, pertaining to how we go through life and we get off the beaten path and everything. And I'm going to use it again today because it's so relative to what I'm trying to get across. But the whole time I was on that two-lane trying to find a place to turn around, I would see little driveways that if I had a car or a pickup truck, I could have whipped in easily and turned around and saved myself the stress of trying to find a place to turn a semi around. And all the while I'm watching the clock, trying to figure out, am I going to be late for picking up this load? And like I said, I eventually found a place that I could safely turn around, and then now I'm headed back. But in our daily walk, a lot of us get off track, and I myself included, and we go quite a ways before, not necessarily before we find a place to turn around, but before we realize we need to turn around and we're headed down the wrong path. And in the next verse, verse 14, it says, for the gate is narrow and the way is narrow that leads to life, and there are few who find it. And that's so true. I like that, who find it. Just like me trying to find a place to turn around, I know the spot I need for that semi and trailer to get turned around safely, where traffic coming from the other way can see me, because I was on a two-lane road. It wasn't like the interstate where I go down the next ramp and loop back. I was on a two-lane road, and lots of trees, lots of curves, narrow. Some places didn't have a shoulder. And it's like that when we get off the path that Christ has laid out for us. Now we're into whatever scenario you can think of, but it's not a good one. And then when we're on the wrong path, there's all kinds of bright and shiny things trying to grab our attention, and that's Satan trying to keep us from turning around like we know we need to do and go back to our Savior. There's a people that who've overcome addiction, and they start down the path that the counselors help them with, and tell them, if you stay on this path and you can get people to help you to stay on this path, life will be better and you won't fall back into that life of addiction. And I've never had an addiction issue for anything like that, but I've heard and listened to people over the years that do, and they say that desire for whatever it was that got you into trouble, it never goes away, and it's always trying to pull you back. And they say that staying clean is just super, super hard because of that urge and that, what feeling you get if you go back to doing what you were doing. And so listening to what they say and just what I read in that, it's so easily to get off the path that Christ has laid out for us, chasing shiny little things that Satan has thrown up to make the wrong path that we're on look like it's the right one, like we're doing good. But by the time we realize we're on the wrong path, it's too late, and we've went a long way, and turning around is very difficult to get back to that point where we need to be to get back on the right path. And that's why verse 14 says, for the gate is small and the way is narrow that leads to life, and there are few to find it. Once we get off the path that Christ has laid out for us, getting turned back around at times can be very difficult, because we're looking back and we're trying to see what we need to do to overcome. Another way to look at it is when you drive your car, the windshield's really big and you can see everything you need to see. But when you look through the mirror, the rear view mirror, and through the back glass, it's not as big, and it's hard to see what's behind you. So if you take and think about it, once we've gotten off the path that Christ has laid out for us, it's very difficult to get back on that path. It's not impossible, it's just difficult. But the sooner we realize we need to turn around, because that'll make it easier to get back to that point where we goofed. So just think about that today. Verse 13 and 14 again says, enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction. And we all know that. And there are many who enter through it. So it's telling us, it's warning us that there's a lot of us that's going to get off the path. But we need to recognize that as soon as possible, and do everything we possibly can to get turned around and headed in the right direction.